It is summer transfer season, and in today's video I'm going to be ranking some of Liverpool's reported transfer targets. I'm going to put them into a tier list, and out of all those players at the end, I'm going to pick 5 players that I think Liverpool should sign, the best 5 players they could sign this summer out of all their targets, and explain why. Because Liverpool have won the Premier League. And while Liverpool have won the Premier League very comfortably, they do need to make a few additions this summer. Trent confirmed leaving. They will need to replace him. Arguably need an upgrade at left back. I think one of Tsimikas and Robertson will be moved on. Probably more likely Tsimikas, use Robertson for another season. Definitely need a striker. Darwin Núñez is done. Jota looks like he's fallen off a cliff. Arne Slot, while I think Endo is good, Arne Slot doesn't rotate a lot in midfield. Definitely need a bit back up there so he can rotate a bit more. And look, Liverpool looked at Kvaratskhelia in January. They looked at Anthony Gordon last summer. Potentially another winger. Salah's staying and he's fantastic. Gakpo and Diaz are great off the left, but maybe Liverpool want another winger. And I personally think that Kwanzaa would benefit from going out on loan. So you could argue even maybe like a left-sided defender because Konate is not guaranteed to stay fit. So, you know, there's probably a little bit of work that Liverpool are looking to do this summer. Apparently, they've got plans to spend big because they didn't do much last summer and really back Arne Slot. So we're going to be ranking all the players that have been linked to Liverpool. I apologise if I missed someone out that has been ranked to Liverpool, and some of these players on this list have been ranked to Liverpool, but not by reliable sources. I will mention that when we come to them. But yeah, at the end, I'm going to put 5 players from good signing into great signing and pick what I think are the perfect 5 signings for Liverpool this summer. Good signing, I think it's a good signing. You know, I think Liverpool fans can't have any complaints. The second category is depend on fee/risk what I like. Players I think are good players. I like these players, but it depends on the fee. It could be a little bit of a risk. Maybe they're a bit young, but inexperienced, or maybe they've not played in a system like Arne Slot. We've got better options elsewhere. Players that I think, you know, okay, they're all right, but actually there's already better options on the list in their position. And then we've got a not realistic/too expensive category. So we're starting off with Belieber, it looks like first here. And I think Belieber would be a very good signing for Liverpool. I could put him in that depends on fee/risk, but I like purely for the fact that Brighton will want a crazy fee. And he could be too expensive. That's the only thing with Brighton. They ask for crazy fees. But I think Belieber would be a very good signing for Liverpool. What Arne Slot likes, and this is probably why he doesn't play Endo, despite the fact that I think Endo's been very good whenever he's been called upon. But Arne Slot likes a player that's comfortable with their back to goal, comfortable receiving the ball, technically good, progressing the ball, you know, sort of like receiving the ball and spinning away from the defender, being press resistant. And Belieber has that, but also Belieber has crazy athleticism, his ability to sort of cover ground, athleticism, which is what Arne Slot likes. And Szoboszlai, you know, I think that's why Arne Slot has a strong liking for him. So I think, you know, having another body in the Liverpool midfield and Belieber would be a very, very good signing. So going into Hugo Ekitike here, and again, good signing. You could argue depends on fee/risk, but I like him. I think he's a good player. I don't think he's worth more than £60 million, and I would push £50 million because he didn't have the best time, was it, at PSG? Although he was age 20 at PSG, which is very young, but I always have those concerns around like Bundesliga tax. You know, I think he's done really well this season. He's got 22 goals. He looks phenomenal. I think he could be the next Isak. And it did take Isak a few years for Isak to be as good as he is now. I don't think, you know, because of players like Lamine Yamal, people think, oh, if they're not it at 20, they might not ever be it. But actually, it's very normal to be that guy at 25. It's one of those where I think it's a risk and it depends on fee. But I also do think it is a good signing for Liverpool. But it massively depends on these factors because Bundesliga tax, not all of the players that come from the Bundesliga, Werner, for example, have performed. But I do like him. I do like him as a profile. And I do think it's the profile Liverpool wants. So I'm going to put him in good signing. But again, it is a little bit of a risk. Semenyo, again, I think is a good signing. But it's going to depend on the fee. I'm going to put him on depends on the fee. The reason because of this is he's not a £65 million signing and his reported price tag is 65 million. If you get Semenyo for 40 million, it's a good signing because he can play left wing, he can play right wing, he's powerful, he's proven in the Premier League. But for 65 million, I can name better wingers than him that you could get for a better price. So I'm going to put him on, depends on the fee, really, how I feel about Semenyo. Also, like, while I think you need another attacking addition, and Arne Slot, I think, wants a winger, I do think striker is more important than a winger for Liverpool, and left back and Trent replacement. Before you look at a winger, I think you look at striker. Morgan Rogers, I'm just going to put not realistic, so that's too expensive. Like, for me, Morgan Rogers would go right up here and good, arguably great signing. He would. I think he's fantastic. I think he's phenomenal. But again, I just don't think it's realistic. I don't think Villa would sell for anything under like 80 million. I don't think Liverpool want to spend that much on someone that, I mean, he could play striker for Liverpool and play more of a Firmino role, dropping deep. I think he'd be very good at that. But I think Liverpool would want more an out-and-out striker. I don't know if they'd want to spend that kind of money. I think he's almost seen as untouchable at Aston Villa this year, especially if Aston Villa are in Europe next season. It'll be even harder to get him. So as good as Morgan Rogers is, as great as he is, I think the price, I think it would be an unrealistic one. Sesko is very much in a similar category to Ekitike for me. I think it could be a good signing, but I think it depends on fee/risk what I like. Again, I'm a fan of Benjamin Sesko and speaks about him for years, because even before he went to RB Leipzig, when he was 18, he was linked to Manchester United, and there was a point actually the second half of last season where Sesko was putting up really good numbers for Leipzig, really showed his potential, and he's a very exciting player. The question is, he's 21 years of age, he's got 13 goals and 5 assists in the Bundesliga this season. He showed a lot of promise. He is a good player. He's lanky, he's quick. You know, elements of his hold-up could improve, elements of his back-to-goal play could improve, and passing could improve. And I guess it would depend on what Arne Slot wants in a striker. I think Sesko is a more lethal finisher than Ekitike, and Sesko is quite direct. And if you want to feed balls into a striker and be quite direct, I think it works. But I think Ekitike would maybe be a bit better. I think from what I've seen, and I've not seen a lot. Okay, I've not seen a lot, and I'm going to admit that. But what I've watched for Frankfurt and Leipzig, I think I prefer Hugo. Going on to Victor Gyökeres, he's got to go in good signing. I know people have reservations around Gyökeres. Could he do this? Could he do that in the Premier League? He won't have the space in the Premier League, this and that. The guy's got 52 goals and 12 assists in 49 games. The guy's statistics are ridiculous. Like, Victor Osimhen has just about broke 20 goals in Turkey, which is probably, similar difficulty to the Portuguese league. This guy's got 52 goals. Liverpool want a goal scorer. They want someone that's clinical. I know Darwin Núñez came from Portugal, but he was far better than Darwin Núñez ever was. Great signing. Good signing. Kerkez, obviously good signing. Again, I'm going to move a few players from good signing into great signing, and Kerkez could definitely be one of those that gets moved up into Liverpool's perfect 5 signings. I want him at Man United, and I still do, even though we signed Dorgu, because Dorgu can play right wing back. I've been talking about Kerkez for a good year now. A big fan of him. Him and Robinson have been the 2 best left backs in the league this season. Cucurella's been good as well. Paul Lewis Hall got injured. He was definitely up there. There's been quite a few good left backs in the league this season. He's really impressed me. But do you know what? When you watch the Tottenham games and you watch his game against Man United and like Chelsea and some of the big teams, he's putting proper performances as well. So he's good and good signing. And Bryan Mbeumo's good and good signing, which is more debatable because you have Salah and his best position is right wing, and Salah is staying. So I could say here, I'm going to be honest, my mindset on Liverpool and a right winger is very much like, because Salah's staying, maybe you're better off going for like a 20, 21-year-old player with crazy potential that can be an understudy to Salah, rather than someone at the top of the game already like Mbeumo. But Mbeumo has the versatility to play central and to play on the left, and he's quite good in central areas and can drop deep. And I think Mbeumo's versatility to play central makes him a good signing. I think Mbeumo right now, I know you've got Salah, nobody's going to beat Salah to that right wing spot, but Mbeumo is so good. I think he's got 19 goals in the Premier League this season. Ridiculous. He's so good. And yes, he's not going to start over Salah at right wing, but one gives you an option to rotate and rest Salah, not run him to the ground if Salah gets injured. There's someone that got crazy output. I think he's the best Salah replacement in terms of Premier League players. Do you know what I mean? But 2, he can play centrally. He can play with Salah. Arne Slot clearly doesn't rate Chiesa. He's someone that's going to come on and challenge and add goals. So while I think, maybe it's smarter to find an understudy, look, Mbeumo's class. And look, Delap. I'm going to put Delap in better options elsewhere. I like Delap, and maybe that's harsh. Because I actually think he'd be a good signing for Liverpool. But the only thing is, I look at Kerkez, and I look at Delap, and I think right now, do Liverpool want to go with a young striker that's a risk and develop them, or do they want a ready-made striker? And the reason for me is with Darwin Núñez and Jota not cutting it, I feel like Liverpool don't have that out-and-out striker that's ready-made. And it's like, maybe I go back. But then I'm also like, is that harsh? Because he's £30 million. With Delap, he's going to be £30 million. And he's, done really well this season at Ipswich. And it feels harsh. I think he's got 13 goals at Ipswich this season and he's done well. It feels harsh. Because I think for £30 million, I think it's a risk. I'm going to put him in risk, but I like. I think it's a risk with Liverpool. The young strikers are a risk, but I'm going to go risk, but I like. Arda Güler here. I am a massive Arda Güler fan, and I feel for him a little bit because he's not had crazy minutes at Real Madrid, and I think he probably deserves, actually, a few more minutes than he's got this season. He likes to play right wing, and I think with him being young, he's an understudy to Salah, but he has the ability to play on the left. He has the ability to play central as a 10. I think the thing with Arda Güler is I'm not comparing him to Harvey Elliott, but Harvey Elliott hasn't had a whole load of minutes. And if he wants to leave Real Madrid to get minutes, is he going to get that at Liverpool? I don't know. But then I think if that's what Slot wants, then I think Slot could give him more minutes. I think he could learn from Salah. I think he can obviously play central. I think he's such a talented player, and I just think it's a great signing, like, honestly, because if you want another winger, you could go for someone like Arda Güler, learn from Salah, can play more central, and then you go out and out on a ready-made striker. Because I feel like, as I said earlier, Liverpool, for me, should go for a ready-made striker, but at wing could go for more of a prospect. But I'm going to put him in good signing, because I do really rate him as a player. Another player I'm going to put in good signing is Rodrigo. Spoke about him yesterday. Look, there's market opportunity for Rodrigo. If he's 100 million, I wouldn't bother with it. But I think, yes, he's a right winger. Yes, he's in his prime. And yes, Salah's staying. But I think he's better on the left, to be honest, when I've seen him play on the left. I think he can play on the left. I think he's a good player. And he's one of those talented players. And it means, if Diaz had a bad spell, okay, well, Rodrigo can go there. If Gakpo gets injured, you got Rodrigo. If Salah gets injured, you got Rodrigo. It really adds really adds good competition. Inacio, better options elsewhere. I like Inacio. He was linked to both Manchester United and Liverpool. Last summer by Romano, I believe, if I'm correct. Physicality is my only question around him. On the ball, beautiful, fantastic player on the ball. Could play left back, probably. He's very good at defending the wide channels. But I think some of the other names on this list are better than him. I think I have concerns around his physicality. That's all. He reminds me a little bit of Alessandro Martinez in terms of, I think, technically brilliant. And I think if you're playing with Van Dijk, it doesn't matter too much. Physicality could be the concern. Actually, I'll move him up. It depends on the fee. I think for £30 million, it's a good signing, but for £50 million, it's not a good signing. Do you know what I mean? I'll move him up because I do think Liverpool need a left-sided defender, and I think the fact that he could play left back and left centre back make him higher up. Nico Williams, I think he's overrated, but I think he's a good signing. Like, I think Nico Williams is overrated. I think he's a bit of a Garnacho with better PR. Garnacho gets stick for doing things that Nico Williams does, then gets praised for as someone that's watched him. But again, he's so young and he's such a talent and he's so direct and he's so electric that I think, it's a good signing. There's a reason all the top clubs are interested in him. I don't think he's ready-made yet, but with Salah and he can learn from Salah, I think he would be great impact player. He's got the directness of Diaz. He could learn from Salah. He's a creator. I mean, yeah, of course it's a good signing. And when I say overrated, that doesn't mean he's a bad player, but he's very hyped, very, very hyped, and he is good. But the hype, I think, makes you think he's a bit better than he is now, and I think a lot of it is potential. Anthony Robinson again is a good signing. I pick Kerkez over Robinson for age, but I actually think Robinson with his 10 assists has been better this season. And you could go with Robinson because he gets assists and that can make up for Trent leaving potentially. But again, it's a good signing, Robinson, but I think he's 28. I'm going to Google Anthony Robinson. I think he's 28. He is 27. He's going to be 28 next season. So that's the only question about it is the age, but he'd be good. And then we've got Hato, again, can play left back, can play left centre back, one for the future. Could be, if Kwanzaa goes out on loan, could be a good sort of backup for at left back and at defence if something happens. Yeah, I think he's a big talent. Arsenal were interested in him, but with Lewis Skelly, are they going to maybe look at him as much this summer? Who knows? Joao Pedro. This time last year, Joao Pedro would have been a good signing, but he is injury prone. He scores a lot of penalties and is a bit inconsistent. Sometimes I watch him and he's great, and sometimes I watch him and I'm like, So I'm going to put him in. Depends on the fee. I think for £30 million, it's a decent signing because he's someone that could do what Firmino does. He's not an out-and-out striker, but he's someone that if you have Gakpo on the left and Salah on the right, he's going to facilitate that and work. I think he would work really well with Gakpo and Salah. But it depends what Arne Slot wants to do with his striker as well. Does he want a target man? Does he want his man to run in behind? Does he want someone to drop deep and facilitate play? And that's what Joao Pedro would do. I think it depends on the fee because Brighton massively overpriced their players. Schlotterbeck instantly goes in good signing for me. This is why Inacio was lower off, because if you've got to choose between Inacio and Schlotterbeck for me is the more complete player. He's more defensively stable. He also could play left back if needed. Good at defending the wide channels. Good on the ball. Done it at Dortmund a high level. Aït-Nouri. I'm going to put Aït-Nouri in good signing. Now, Aït-Nouri has some defensive weaknesses. And he's probably better in a back five than the back four. I think that's why Robinson and Kerkez make more sense than Aït-Nouri because he plays more in a back five and he's more of a wing back. But I look at it and I think, well, you're losing Trent and Aït-Nouri is going to be on the left, not the right. But Aït-Nouri as a player, in terms of his final ball, in terms of what he can offer, in terms of his passing, and he's maybe more defensively weak and more attackingly strong, is a little bit like Trent. So if you wanted to keep the Trent dynamic, you could go with like a right back that's more like a Robertson and then Aït-Nouri being the left back. Do you get what I'm saying? I think it's a good signing in that sense, but it's not like a like for like replacement. Of course, you can't find a like for like replacement for Trent Alexander-Arnold. Like he's a right back, but he's got like specialist midfield passing abilities, which is like impossible. And I think Arne Slot's not that bothered in that sense. I think Arne Slot is happy with a traditional overlapping right back, but he might look to bring in someone in midfield to replace Trent's creativity. But I think Aït-Nouri potentially. Stiller, I'm already going to put him in great signing. For me, I think you've been linked to him a lot recently. There is concerns over physicality and all of that, but look, Pedri and De Jong isn't the most physical midfield in the world. Look how good they are, Pedri and De Jong. Vitinha and João Neves is not the most physical midfield in the world. Look how good they are. I know the Premier League is a physical league, but if you can't, this is the Subamende alternative. This is the guy that I suggested Liverpool sign last year as a DM. When you were linked to Subamende, I said if you can't get Subamende, you should get Stiller, because that's what Arne Slot wants in this DM. And I think Gravenberch's best position will be an 8, but he's done great as a 6. But having someone that he trusts to rotate Gravenberch with, Stiller just seems perfect. Like I feel for Endo because I think he's good and Stiller could come in and take his place again. But Slot clearly doesn't give Endo enough opportunities. So he clearly wants somebody else in midfield to rotate more. Gravenberch can be more of an 8. Jones and Gravenberch can be 8s. McAllister and Soboslai can be 10s. McAllister can also be an 8. I just think it's a good signing. And Nkunku's going in better options elsewhere. I liked Nkunku, but looks washed at Chelsea and looks like attitude-wise doesn't even want to be at Chelsea. So while I think it would have been a good signing for Liverpool 2 years ago, it's not 2 years ago. Gittins depends on the fee. I think Gittins is a good player. I think Gittins is a really exciting winger. I think he's got one of the highest ceilings in football. But I don't think Liverpool are in a position to spend 100 million on a winger. I don't think they need to spend 100 million on a winger. And if Gittins is going to be in the 100 million range, whereas Nico Williams, who's in the 40 million range, and I think ability-wise, there's not much between Gittins and Williams, but Williams has a 40 million release clause or 42 million release clause. Gittins could be 80, 90. I've got to put him on, depends on the fee. Hincapie, I like Hincapie. Again, linked to Liverpool last summer. Is a left-sided centre-back, but has the ability to play left-back, hybrid-type player, defends the channels well. I know Leverkusen haven't been as good this season, but he's comfortable on the ball, defends the channel well. I don't think it's a bad signing at all. I've gone Branthwaite. I'm going to put him in not realistic / too expensive. More for the sense of maybe just Everton wouldn't sell to Liverpool. I don't know, but then your rivalry isn't like Man United Liverpool rivalry is like 10 times stronger than I feel like Man United Man City and Everton Liverpool. Like Man United and Liverpool would never sell players to each other, whereas maybe Everton they would, but I don't know. I just don't know if Everton Liverpool would happen. Osimhen again is just going and not realistic, so that's too expensive because he wants a 200k a week after tax, which is 350k a week, which is something Liverpool don't do. Kudus, this time last year, Kudus would have been in good signings. This time last year, especially when this time last year there was rumours of Salah going to Saudi as well, Kudus would have been in good signings. But Kudus has really dropped off this last year. He's really disappointed me. I know he can play across the front line. I know he's versatile and maybe a new environment out of West Ham, he'd be better. But look, Bowen's been amazing this season. Kudus hasn't stepped up. So I just think right now, Kudus or Bremo, and Bremo's comfortably the better player. Gittins or Kudus. Gittins has been better this season. Nico Williams or Kudus. Kudus is more physical and more proven in the league, but yeah. Cherki, I think elements of Cherki is a risk, but a good signing, especially if he could be available for pretty much, is it 25 million? I also think with like Trent leaving, he's going to bring that sort of extra creativity that is needed. So yeah, I think Cherki is definitely a shout. I'm trying to make sure I don't cover the screen with my face. Bruno Guimaraes is probably not realistic, so that's too expensive. I think to get him, Newcastle want 80 million plus, and I think while he'd be a great signing for Liverpool, I think Bruno Guimaraes loves Newcastle. Like you could tell Bruno Guimaraes loves Newcastle. Maybe Newcastle want to sell a player like Bruno Guimaraes, cash in so they have more money to spend this summer. You never know, but I don't think so. I don't think it's realistic. I see him staying at Newcastle. He loves the club. See him being expensive. Frimpong. This is one of the hardest ones, Jeremy Frimpong. And the reason it's one of the hardest ones is because I think as a Trent replacement, in terms of output from a fullback, he's up there. And you need a right back, and he's, for me, one of my favourite right backs. He's been fantastic. I don't think he's been as good this season when I've watched Leverkusen, but that's more of a Leverkusen problem than a Frimpong problem. He's still been pretty good this season. He's got 4 goals and 5 assists this season. Last season, his stats were insane. The thing is just the lack of physicality. If you played a back 5, Frimpong instantly goes like to the top. But because Slot plays a back 4, I almost see him going into risk, but I like defensively he's got weaknesses like Trent. I think Trent is better defensively than him. Obviously physically he's only like 5 foot, which is a concern, and he's not played in a back 4. Like he's more advanced, so that's why I'm going to put risk, but I like, because I like him and he's good, but how will he do in a back 4? That is the question. Ola Aina, I believe, is available on a free. So good signing. I mean, you can get Ola Aina on a free. You lost Trent on a free, of course. Ola Aina, Trent replacement. There's big differences there. But he's been arguably, when he was fit, the best right back in the league at times this season. He's been fantastic for Forest. Got decent output. Athletically good. You know, I don't think Ola Aina on a free is a bad deal. Especially with you losing Trent on a free. He is 28 years of age. He's a bit older, but it could be, you know what, you haven't found the right back this season. He is 28 years of age, but bring him in as another right back so there's someone experienced, because Bradley gets injured, can push Bradley. You know, he's not the answer to replacing Trent. No, I don't think there is an answer to replacing Trent. Trent's the one of a kind, but he's not the guy that's going to be a right back for the next 5 years. But maybe if you're like, you know what, we'll bring Ola Aina in, but actually this summer we're going to focus on getting a striker, getting another centre mid, getting a centre back, and you don't have the funds. I think it's smart. It's do you know what I mean? I mean, I could argue, I could say, look, there is better options than him at right back, but I think because he's available on a free, he pushes his way up. Huijsen, for me, I think I'm going to just put him straight in great signing. He's got potential to be the Van Dijk replacement. Of course, not the physical levels of Van Dijk yet, but he's that guy. And I think with having Konate and Van Dijk, really good base for him to learn on, not too over-reliant on him. I think he's the centre-back for the future. You missed out on Lenny Yoro last summer. I think he's the guy, and he's very two-footed. He could play left centre-back as well. Morgan Gibbs-White, I think, is a very good player, but I think there's better options elsewhere. In the sense of, and this is not me having a dig at Gibbs-White, because he's been so much better than Kudus and Nkunku this season. So much better, Gibbs-White. But it's like, is that what Liverpool need? Do you need a 10? Actually, I'm going to put him in here. I'm going to put him on, depends on fee. Because I think with Trent leaving, you could do another midfield addition who's got a bit of creativity. So I'm going to put him in depends on fee. I think if it's going to be 70, 80 million, it is not worth it. But if you can get him for a good fee, I think it's a good signing. Isak's going into expensive / not realistic. It's 150 million for Isak. I don't think Liverpool want to spend 150 million on one position. As perfect as he'd be, as much as I'd love to stick Isak in like perfect, I just don't know if you can afford Isak, Stiller, and Huijsen in one. If Newcastle don't get Champions League football, your chances of getting Isak are a lot stronger. But I think he's happy staying at Newcastle. I think he's very happy at Newcastle. I think he likes Newcastle. Newcastle don't want to sell. You'd have to break the bank to him. I know Arsenal fans seem to think they were getting Isak for a long time, but I think he's staying at Newcastle. So I'm going to put him in not realistic. Gay would be a good signing. He's got 1 year left on his contract as well, so he could be available for a decent fee. Can play left centre back, can play right centre back. He's definitely more experienced than Huijsen. Like, you can argue between Huijsen and Gay here because Huijsen is potential, Gay is now, but I think with Konate and Van Dijk being so good now, you could afford to go with potential on Huijsen. Adam Morton, it just depends on the fee. Like, I think Adam Morton is perfect for Liverpool. He'd be fantastic, but I don't think Liverpool want to spend 100 million on a midfielder right now. I think they want to sort of go, okay, 40 million midfielder, 30 million defender, 40 million fullback, and then they want to maybe spend 70 odd million on a striker. That's what I think Liverpool want to do. And then Ederson, which might be an unpopular one, but I've gone better options elsewhere. Ederson's been fantastic this season. Ederson is fantastic. Ooh, just hit my elbow. But with Ederson, yeah, Liverpool slot, wants midfielders that are very comfortable on the ball and able to turn out from the press. Ederson is an off-the-ball monster, like Endo. And I like Endo, and I like Ederson, but I don't think he's what Slot wants in a midfielder. Which brings us into now picking 3 more signings. So we've got the centre-back, and we've got the DM and Stiller and Huijsen for me. Now, I don't know if you can get Huijsen and Kerkez in one window, but look, you can raid Bournemouth like you raided Southampton. I think Kerkez would be my pick at left back. So it leaves me with 2 positions now, which need to be either a winger and a striker or a right back and a striker. Like, Connor Bradley's great, but you do need a right back. You have actually been linked to the Feyenoord right back recently, and it'll be interesting to see who your right back targets are. Like, Ole Aino is almost like a 6th signing because he's available on a free. So could I just cheat and add him in as a 6th? I don't know. I would go Victor Gyökeres. I think Ekitike could be that guy. Ekitike, I think he could be a fantastic signing. But if you just want someone that's ready now to score goals, I would go Victor Gyökeres. And then the last one, for me, is difficult. You've got the striker, you've got the left back, you've got the centre back, you've got the DM. Who's going to be my last pick? Rodrigo would be fantastic, but I don't think you'd have the funds. You've got to look at the funds. Gyökeres is 58 million. Stiller's about 35 million because I'm thinking release clauses. Huijsen's about 50 million. Kerk's about 30 million. Like, I don't think you've got more. I don't think you'd have more than 40 million for this remaining position. Do you know what I mean? And I think you would look at a winger. So maybe Nico Williams because of his release clause. Maybe Nico Williams. I don't know if you could get Arda Güler or maybe Cherky. You know what? I'm going to chuck Cherky in there. Because there is question marks over work rate, but I think the creativity and the flair and the genius that you lose from Trent, Cherky could replace whether he plays out wide, whether he plays in the middle. It gives you another option there. And because he's available on a free, we could chuck Ole Aina in there and make that 6 players that Liverpool should get this summer. This was really difficult, but I think that would be my pick in terms of being somewhat realistic. Let me know your thoughts down below. Thank you for watching. Bye.